it's live now. What are you saying?
I think the reconquered thing would probably allow you to make a new map every so often in the endless mode and stuff like that. I think that would be a cool concept, like having a mobile base, and every time you go to a new land, you put it in a new generator and everything like that, and you get people to join it. Then you add resources to your land dreadnought. Then you move to a new location and rinse and repeat. It would be kind of cool. Oh, what do you think?
Well, I think if if you are allowed to, let's say you had a land dreadnought or even the outpost teams, if they allowed us to bring the outpost back into the game, then we could probably use the outpost itself as a means of having people transport resources to a location and then set up the city. I don't think land dreadnoughts should be used for the purpose of establishing new cities. What I think they should be used for is to explore other regions. So like you want to go to another part of the globe or Earth, you'd use the land dreadnought to take you there. And the outpost teams, you remember like there is a section of TLA where
Mhm.
the hunters huts become scouts in a way. So maybe the outpost in could be reintroduced into builders and endless and endurance and serenity as a form
Mhm.
of um, explore, excavation and land surveying system where you would send out the portion of your population that's not working on the city currently to build a new city. And when you decide to do that, you have to sign a law called the Colonies Law or something like that. What do you think about that?
Interesting, but I also wish for them to bring some of the luxury things like the bathhouse and other stuff from the last autumn over to the Frostpunk division. What do you think? Like extra better quality fu- food, bathhouses, comfortable living quarters, and stuff like that. And I think it would be a very interesting add-on.
So, so if I get this right, you're thinking like a class type of system where like they you can introduce if you introduce the colony laws, then what comes after that is that you have to deal with some social conditions within the city and you have to deal with
Yeah, like they should they should add more social conditions that would improve overall health, and other things like that.
so basically in a sense, we've got the city going and on top of us having the city going, um, you have special types of houses and accommodations with the laws that
Yeah,
apply.
yeah, like I wouldn't mind building more houses in Frostpunk if it meant my people could live more comfortably.
Well, I mean, the idea of allowing people to build, like you have different types of houses and classes. So you can have engineers in one section, and then you have the common workers in another section. Could
That like they could push it that far, like better living conditions for one group or other that could cause class warfare and stuff like that. I could see that.
and then you'd have like the good decision and the bad decision as to how the citizens should live. Like for example,
Exactly. Like it would be more control. Well,
yeah,
personally, would find that more interesting.
because I also believe that TLA was the first time in the game's entire history that people were allowed to practically um, experience a more realistic version of of Frostpunk itself. in terms of
Yeah, and
what it would be like. So, I mean, I'm not the person who would be like this guy that has all the information on this game or so forth. Or I just have one little idea. But what I think would make a lot more sense for the game itself would be to allow people to have the chance to build their own society that is not necessarily, if you get what I'm saying, restricted by the idea that it has to be either faith or order. Because um, if you remember when you're playing TLA, you can still build a chapel even though you build the watchtowers. Remember that?
yeah, uh, what did you just say? I had a brain fart.
I'm saying that you are able to build the chapel and the watchtowers at the same time in TLA.
Well, like the churches in the watchtower, I would totally dig that system. Like, I wish that you could be allowed to use both to a degree.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense because if the book of laws is almost um like an experience skill tree, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to expand both, but not push either one to the extremes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Where if you decide that you want to go in this particular direction, or you want to be this type of leader, you can take it that way. However, in doing so, or in taking up that kind of spot, it would kind of create a type of it creates something for you to actually work
Conflict
with.
of stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I wish they like say you got the guard towers and stuff like that all built up and stuff like that, and then you get the faith keepers. There could be conflict of orders.
yeah,
Which one has supremacy over the other, order or the faith?
and then you'd have to probably build two buildings in the city to work with both order and faith, and that way you'd have two classes of people living in the city.
True. It's just it will be interesting if they would just expand on that and just give more story content like that.
Because then, just by doing that, the game's lore itself would actually, not the game's lore, but I'm saying like the mechanics on how it's played would be much more interesting to people. People would come back if they know that they could build multiple cities and then they'd have to deal with varying social conditions. So let me give you an example. Say you sign the colony law and you get access to both faith and order. And you decide to build a new city. When you set up that city, you would have to provide the workers in that city with some labor laws.
Mm,
And those labor laws would be essential to the construction of the city. So if they're working in toxic conditions, you'd have to provide, let's say, you'd have to provide certain facilities to allow that to take place. So you'd have to give them a day off, or you have to give them extra rations, or you have to give them better safety equipment. So that way, when they're constructing,
exactly.
yep. So that way, kind
I
of,
would like more options, but they don't really have more options, and that's the sad part.
well, I'm thinking of this not as the first city that you construct in builders, but maybe like the second one. Because the first city in builders, if the labor laws were introduced, it would be impossible to complete the construction. So it's more feasible that the labor laws comes into effect once the main city has been established. And then so if the main city is faith or order, then that main city could then introduce the colonies law, and then that would allow you to build another city. But then you could mix the trees in that city.
Be interesting. But my honest opinion is They should allow you to have more control over the city because, frankly, I really want to treat my people well. Well, I want them to be comfortable and happy, but also maintain a level of freedom and safety and order to for them.
And I mean, since as these guys are going for realism so hard, I think it would make a lot more sense if they also allowed you to, let's say for example, they have been experiencing the storm for very long periods, right? Then after a while, if the storm comes in, it shouldn't cause discontent because they've been
Mm,
experiencing this for so long.
true.
So I mean, if it's like the first three storms, they can be afraid, but as their technology improves, that fear of the storm should completely go away. No,
Exactly.
because if it keeps going on, it's kind of looking a bit unrealistic. And I think also another thing that would make things a little bit more interesting is if,
Mm-hmm.
as time goes by, here's another cool one, the weather changes. Now, when I say the weather changes, I mean the weather is more dynamic. So,
Yeah, I want severe like here's the thing, in the beginning you want light storms, but as it gets goes on, you want really harsh storms to test your skills. No, because like the survival mode, it's not doable. It's not
survival
fun.
survival mode is, I think it's for hardcore players. It is.
Yeah, but like I just want the difficulty to stack as the longer you survive.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I think I have a concept for you. So, in essence, what you are looking at is you want the storm to basically intensify as the time goes on. So the longer you play is the more difficult it gets. And then after,
Exactly.
you want it to get difficult for a little time, and then after that difficulty, it kind of subsides and it starts to decline. Is that what you're looking for?
Like goes it goes up and down. Like the storm's not predictable. Like Mother Nature is throwing everything she's got at us one on the storm, and then she's like, "Oh, a slap tap on the cheek." The next, that randomness.
Mm-hmm. And
All the storms have such predictability. It's not funny.
that's true. That's true. I think the
Like
storm.
that.
Well,
Yes,
hmm
you were saying.
no, I'm saying that the storm should be a little bit more unpredictable. But I'm taking this stuff a little further. I'm thinking that the storms, let's say for about three to four or five cycles after you complete your city, the storms
Mm,
should become after the, let me see, after day 50, you should experience a
mm,
massive storm like the one that not Winterhome, New London experienced. And then after that storm,
uh
it
huh.
goes all the way back down to 30 degrees or 10
Uh huh.
degrees for
Uh
about
huh.
40 to 50 days. And within that time, you can go out and build a new city if you decide to do so.
Sounds like an interesting concept.
And
It's
then
just.
the area
Uh
would, so when you take the land dreadnought and you leave and go to a new region, you
huh.
you end up somewhere where the it's more of a mixture of what we see in TLA where there's forest and there's snow, but the storm doesn't reach that far, so it stays as the mixture. So the storm comes to a point within the frostland in that area, and then it stops, and then you
Mm-hmm.
see like a large green forest that borders a gigantic ice area. So it's almost like a mixing or coming together of both of the elements. And there's a scene with the land dreadnought moving into that area. What do you think?
Hmm. Well, it could work.
I mean, just the mere fact that you say to your players, like, you don't even tell them that you're gonna do this. You just release it, and it. What I think would make Frostpunk even more intriguing is if they just
Hmm.
add small discoveries along the way. So like every time, every couple of months, they just add in. Sorry, they add in a little something. If you get
I
what I
see.
mean. So that way, let's say for example, um, you build the city and it's become successful. Then, if you can then say to yourself, okay, your city has become successful and you have survived. We have survived over 50 days or over 60 days. Captain, I I think that we should probably try and venture out and find other places. And then along the way, you get a quest to search for some radio tower equipment to build a telegraph station. So the telegraph station could be built into the outpost. That way, um, it can be into the outpost, and then that outpost can serve as like a what do you call it now? A resource extraction system or a trade network. So that what that
Well,
would do,
yeah.
yeah, because then there you could use the asset from Winterhome as a means of transporting resources. And instead of you having to, you can either do the transaction from the main city that you initially started with, or you can do the transaction from the new city that you've created. So that means
It would be interesting to put a trade network in and like get everything established. It would be kind of cool.
it would have
And
gone.
yeah, but like after a certain point, like when the cities are all self-sustaining, I mean, there's an issue of what would they trade.
Well,
All I
that
could see they could be trading is steam cores, and maybe if you're building a new reactor, the components to build it.
I'm
That
think
needs to be expansion, like maybe massive projects or something
I'm
to
think
keep the incentive going.
I think that the generator should have a final stage of development, like a power plant type of setting, where about 10 engineers are permanently stationed there, and
Uh,
when the storm comes in at its highest level, they they are the ones that are able to regulate the temperature to put it in overdrive or to increase it from heat level 4 to 5, and it can stay operational longer. So it people will still feel like the effects of the weather because of because of natural conditions, but the generator will kind of provide a little. It will just give it. It will just be enough that the people can survive. So this, I think the highest one is 170 in terms of freezing, or am I wrong? The Great Storm in
what? What if?
what's the highest temperature for what's the lowest, sorry, the lowest temperature for the
Uh,
storm in Winterhome?
I,
I'm trying to remember.
the Winter Home? I think you mean New London, but
New
it was
London, sorry.
160.
Yeah.
It was 160.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry. Whew, my brain, I'm tired. So from that level, we can say that the generator should be able to give the people at least comfortable living conditions, or it's not freezing but it's cold and it stays that way, and then like after the storm the temperature in the generator can be regulated back down to at least level 4. So level 5 is only
I
for like
see.
emergency procedures when like the storm is coming, like an emergency thing comes on when they ah so what could happen is that they could have two new buildings put in as, oh my God, I'm talking about so many things. So they could build us a weather station inside of the city and a special machine workshop. So as the special machines workshop would allow them to construct vehicles like the ice boat and the land dreadnought and the trade vehicle from Winterhold.
Uh huh.
And then those vehicles, once they're constructed, can then be they can then be, so you get the parts for them, and then they can
Uh
then be manufactured in the machine shop, and then they go into, I don't know, maybe like a garage that can be set up on the edge of the city,
huh.
and the vehicles can be stored there.
Uh
So they
huh.
could build a garage into the side of the wall where the outpost is. So the outpost still has the elevator, but there would be a garage attached to it.
Uh
And
huh.
then
I'm following you.
when once the garage is set up, um, vehicles can then be only vehicles that the garage will work for is like the smaller transportation vehicle. So you can only probably have about two of them, and they can trade with the cities. And then like
Mm
after that, no, for the land dreadnought itself, if you want to have one, you're going to have to station at least 40 engineers there and provide it with coal. But the land dreadnought would be very close to the city. But it has to be there has to be like a station there that will keep steam flowing into it. So you realize that it kind of has some pipes on the side. You know what I'm talking about?
hmm. I see.
I'm
So that
thinking
would probably increase coal demand for coal to keep the thing running. So yeah.
I'm thinking that you could have coal that would be used to keep it running and keep all the systems in check so the storm doesn't affect it. And the last thing,
True, and if you don't have enough coal, it will experience damages. You'd have to repair,
mhm,
and also it will probably freeze.
yeah, get turned over, and then you'd have to spend extra resources to get it back up and running.
Exactly.
So what it could be is that a section right on the outskirts of the city could store the
Mm.
land dreadnought. So you could probably have a we could, if possible, research some of Tesla's technology where, but this would happen during an excavation, as I call it. Um, you know, like when you're playing Warframe and you need to find certain parts, but you have to go all over the system to find them.
Yep.
So it could be a case where to find upgrades for the land dreadnought, you have to search for Victorian land dreadnoughts and abandoned villages and so forth. But then you can once you build it, so you the workers come in. So you probably need like 100 workers, and what they could probably do is allow you to visit the site. So while when you send the workers there, you could go by the site and watch people work on it. And when you
Hmm.
and probably you could probably look at it and see it being constructed as the trade vehicle carries in the resources and food to keep it. So you need steel, wood, coal, steam cores, and at least 100 manpower to build it. After it's completed, you need to staff it with at least 50 or 40 engineers permanently. And
Oh, by
like
the way, speaking of which, have you heard anything about those extra relics they had put off to the side?
they had extra relics. I didn't know about that. Tell me about that.
Remember the newspaper clipping? Remember about the leak of the generators?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Remember that? Did that ever get added to the game?
I'm not sure. I've never come across them.
Me neither, as far as memory goes.
I never
Uh,
come across them. But what I do know
yeah,
though, go on. What do you think?
I think it might be in the Reconquered thing. It's theorized that we're going back to London to reconquer London and bring it back to life.
That'd be stupid.
Pardon?
That'd be stupid.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be stupid too, but who? Question is,
Because
like people would feel like they lost London to the storm, that they would want to reclaim London. Hmm.
that again would be stupid because the map wouldn't be large enough. London is
Pardon?
huge. London is huge, right?
Yeah, but it could have been a lot smaller in the olden times.
Nah, it was still huge. It's a large area. Trust me, it's a large area.
Yeah, but I could see us working with individual teams throughout the map, like four massive generators or five, and we're all working in sync with each other, and like say one needs a resource delivery, the other one needs a resource delivery, and we're objected to help each other as we reclaim London.
It could probably work, but then it would kind of
Yeah,
defeat the purpose.
but
It
it is reconquering London.
Yeah, but then I don't think the community. Well, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't think the community would like that.
I see.
Because let's look at it realistically. You decide that you want to go back to London. Why would you leave London in the first place?
I see your point.
Because then it would defeat the purpose. If we were going to use London as our last home, why would you build the generators far away?
I think they wanted to keep the generators were built to avoid the massive chaos that would ensue after London, like during London's collapse. Like people would panic. Like millions of people probably like did die from this whole thing. Imagine if they built the generators right beside those things. There wouldn't be enough energy, resources, or or space for people to survive.
Yep. So
The lore.
here's what I think they could
That's
do with Winterhome. They could add they could do it like this. Remember I was telling you about the land dreadnoughts, right?
hmm
You could have an expedition team of at least 100 or at least 400 people, right? And that
yeah.
team leaves from your city.
Hey, Lord, help me! It's my kitty Mario. Save me!
Oh,
Save me! He's got me in a cuddle hole, my master narrative. Help me!
oh God, where'd you get that shit from?
Sorry, I just captured.
That's alright. So
So what were we saying?
I'm saying that they could they could basically leave this city or the area which the city is located in the land dreadnought. And then once they leave in the land dreadnought, they go to the old world, which would be where London would be, and Liverpool and anywhere else. And they would go there during the times when the weather goes back down to at least 50. The land dreadnought would position itself upright in a stationary position with its coal supply that can last for at least, let's say, if depending on the amount of resources you put in, it can last for at least 50 days or so, or 100 days, and it can stay there, and you can gather resources and other technologies. But you hear me, right, Mitch?
Yep, and relics of the.
Yeah. So I'm saying, in addition to that, while you have your team working on, so you'd be able to jump between maps. That's the only way this would be able to work. So you have the map of the old world where you can visit various areas like a larger global interface map. and a local area map for each of the regions that you are occupying. So the land dreadnought can be like an exploration and a colony vehicle, depending on how you set it up. And you
Hmm.
send it out, and it goes there. When it goes to new to the old city of London, so let's say it takes them at least oh yeah, that's just gonna go, and then it's gonna have to be able to survive that journey because it's probably gonna take them a couple months to get there and get back. So we could be looking
Who
at,
knows how long, how far we. Like, no one knows exactly where the Frostlands are exactly.
well, we know that
Some say can.
we do know that it the people from New London, they traveled for months. So they traveled for months across the Frostland. And if what I'm looking at right here in this image is accurate,
You
uh,
do know the UK is a landlocked nation, and the average person can travel 23 miles a day. So theoretically, they could have crossed the Atlantic Ocean, theoretically speaking, to Canada, or they could have gone to the Antarctic. I mean, the North Pole, but there's no land there, so that scratches that one out. They could have gone to Russia,
highly unlikely.
so who knows?
It's Iceland or Greenland or the northern part of Canada. That's where it probably is. Iceland.
Probably most likely Iceland must be the most likely place.
That's what I always thought. That's what I always thought of it being. So they go into Iceland. So if we know how long it takes, if we can figure out how long it takes by a couple months by sea travel, we can then probably calculate it in um, um, locomotion driving. But I ain't got the time to calculate that shit. But
Me neither. I don't have a single clue.
but what I'm thinking
But
is that the land dreadnought gets there, gets to the old world, and you put it in stationary mode with the stack up, and then immediately you have like scavenger teams that would go out and search for coal and any other natural resources that can be found, and they bring it back to the land dreadnought. And if you were able to take the time out and research upgrades, you can then build a electronic force field that will surround the vehicle, the outer shell of the vehicle. So what would happen is that when the storm comes, if the vehicle is unable to return back to the city in time or back to the Frostland region it came from, it can create an electronic force field like what Tesla City created to protect itself from the weather. So that way it can stay where it is, and then if necessary, an excavation team can clear the path so it can move. However, while it's stationary before the storm comes and anything, if it gets to London, based on the supplies you give it, uh,
mm,
it can set up there, and you'll be able to look at it like a regular city. However, it'll just be on an open plane with the vehicle, the complete vehicle, so you can have a 360-degree of the vehicle while it's in
mm-hmm.
stationary. And then on top of that, now you'd also be able to go into New London and explore it this War of Mine style.
Hmm. That'll be interesting. But I
So
don't think they'll do such a game playing switcheroo.
if
Hmm.
those guys ever found a way to combine this War of Mine mechanics into like exploring larger,
Frostpunk, personally, I'd probably lose interest. I'm not interested in War of Mine so much. It was very dark and depressing.
I'm not talking about like the game itself, the story. I'm talking about the mechanics of like exploring buildings and finding relics and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I see.
So
Why?
I'm not saying that they should make it this war of mine. I'm just saying that how about you go into the the Queen's Palace and find stuff, or you go into the Tower of London or something. You explore buildings and you dig away at rubble with your scout teams, and you find people and other things trapped in certain areas, and stuff that you can carry back to your city as relics. So like souvenirs and
Exactly.
stuff. That's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm going with it. I think if they could implement the mechanics to work like that, then the game would be even more intriguing and interesting. Because that way,
Gotcha.
yeah, that's how it should probably look.
Um, hmm. I just like so honestly, I think it would be a good idea, but it's up to them, and I don't know. We don't know what they're up to. You
Yeah,
there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, so we don't know what they're up to, so all we can do is just speculate.
Yeah, that's all we can
I'm
do right
hoping
now.
for just more. I'm hoping for more options for comfort for the citizens, on like in the region and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm just hoping for a little more expansion to the world. Anyways, anything else important? Anything you want to bring up with Warframe or anything like?
Oh, hold on, I'll be right back. 1 second.